Chapter 10. The administration pushes back. The summons came in the form of Sira, appearing outside his residential unit, at the start of the administrative morning, with the expression of someone delivering news they've been told to deliver in a particular way. "The council would like to meet with you," she said. "The council," Clover said, "all of it." "The senior council, 7 members. A pause, it isn't optional." "Everything in touring is optional," Clover said. "It just comes with different consequences depending on which option you pick." He looked at her. "Give me 10 minutes. The council chamber was at the top of the tallest building in the civic center and had been designed by someone who understood that altitude was its own argument. The city spread out below the full-length windows on 3 sides, the towers, the bridges, the boulevard, the decided sky, the whole of Turing laid out like evidence for a case that the room itself was making. "Look what we built. Look what we maintain. Look what we are." 7 figures were seated at a curved table that faced the door, arranged so that whoever entered walked toward them across an open floor, which was another argument the room was making. Clover walked across the open floor without adjusting his pace and sat in the single chair placed on the visitor's side of the table without being invited to, which disrupted the geometry of the thing slightly, which was the point. He looked at them. They were older than Sira and Pole, or had the quality of older, which in uploaded consciousnesses meant something different than years. They had the density of people who had been making decisions for a very long time and had the architecture of their own certainties worn into them. 6 men and 1 woman, dressed in the touring palette, but with the additional authority of formal civic dress, something structural about the collars, the cut. The woman in the center spoke first. "Mr. Clover," she said, "I am Councillor Vane, thank you for coming." "I was told it wasn't optional," Clover said, "so the thanks seems a bit ceremonial." Vane looked at him with the expression of someone recalibrating the nature of the conversation they were about to have. "We appreciate your directness." "It's a gift," he said. "What do you want?" A man to Vane's left, older seeming than the others, with the bearing of someone who had held authority long enough that it had stopped feeling like something he wore, and had become something he simply was, leaned forward. "My name is Councillor Prell. We want to talk about the investigation." "All right. Specifically its current direction." "Which direction do you feel it's going?" Clover asked pleasantly. "Away from a resolution," Prell said. "You've been in touring for 12 days. You've spent a significant portion of that time in the residential zones, in unauthorized areas of the administrative infrastructure, and in conversations with, a pause, peripheral figures who have no direct relevance to the matter at hand. I've also spent a significant portion of it finding out who killed Aldous," Clover said. "Which is what you woke me up for, so I'd say the direction is fairly well calibrated." Silence around the table. "You know who killed Aldous," Vane said. "I have a strong working theory," Clover said, "which is detective language for yes." Another silence, the city spread out in the windows behind them, impassive and gleaming. "Then we'd like to hear it," Prell said. "I'm sure you would." Clover looked along the row of faces. 7 old certainties looking back at him with the level quality of things that had spent centuries not being surprised and were currently adjusting to the possibility that they were about to be. "And you will, when the investigation is complete." "It sounds as though the investigation is complete," Vane said. "The investigation is complete when I say it is," Clover said. "When I have everything, not just who, why, how, and what it means." "What it means is not," Prell began. "A detective's job," Clover said. "I know, it's what the job description says. In my experience, the job description is the floor, not the ceiling." He settled back in the chair. "Tell me about the demolition policy." The table was very still. "That matter is not relevant to." "Aldous was the architect of the demolition policy," Clover said. "He had spent 2 years building council support for it. The vote was 3 weeks away when he was killed. That information is relevant to every aspect of this investigation, and the fact that you're telling me it isn't tells me something useful about why you called me in here today." He looked at Vane. "What happens to the policy now?" Vane and Prell exchanged a look. Not the quick calculating glance of Sira and Pole, something slower, more loaded, the look of 2 people who have known each other long enough that entire conversations happen in the space of a shared gaze. "The restructuring initiative is under review," Vane said. "Is it going to pass?" "That depends on a number of..." "Is it going to pass?" A long pause. The initiative was Aldous' primary project, Prell said carefully. With his absence, the timeline has naturally. So it might not pass, Clover said. If the investigation takes long enough, if the attention on the council is sustained long enough, if someone keeps asking inconvenient questions about what exactly was in Appendix C of Civic Restructuring Initiative 7. He paused. Funny how that works. The councillor at the far end of the table, who had not spoken yet, a compact figure with the stillness of someone who chose their words with extreme care, said quietly, "What is it that you want, Mr. Clover?" Clover looked at him. "I want to finish my investigation." "You want something for finishing it the way we need it finished," the compact figure said. "That's the standard structure of this conversation. We present the need, you present the price." "I turned down Pohl's offer," Clover said. "Pohl's offer was preliminary," the compact figure said. "Consider this the substantive conversation." Vane folded her hands on the table. "We can offer you more than citizenship, Mr. Clover. Resources, position, a role in the administration with genuine authority, your perspective, your skills properly utilized. You've demonstrated in 12 days that you see things our own investigators don't. That has value here." She paused. "Considerable value." Clover looked at her. The offer was better than Pohl's. That was worth acknowledging honestly, if only to himself. Citizenship had been a bribe with the shape of a favor. This was a genuine offer of something, belonging, purpose, the use of his particular skills in a world where those skills were apparently rare. A role, authority, the chance to be something in a city where everyone else had been something for centuries. He thought about the white room where he'd woken up, the researched comfort of the chair, the 3 identical trees. He thought about Vex in the forgotten room, covering the walls with thoughts that had nowhere else to go, staying invisible to stay alive. He thought about 40,000 people in the blocks, the woman with bags over both shoulders, the boy with the sharp eyes, Marin's granddaughter's baby girl who had been born 3 weeks ago and had a whole life ahead of her inside a wall. He thought about a girl with a beetle in a jar. He thought about a human rights lawyer who had run out of legitimate channels. "Here's what I keep coming back to," Clover said. "You built a beautiful city, genuinely. I've walked it for 12 days and it is aesthetically a remarkable achievement. The engineering alone, I don't have the framework to fully appreciate it, but I can recognize the scale of it." He looked at the windows, at Turing spread out below in its gleaming arranged perfection. "And then you took 40,000 living people and you put them behind a wall and you called it organization. And then when the wall stopped being enough, you wrote 400 pages about moving them 40 kilometers away into a subsistence facility, and you called it optimization." He brought his gaze back to the table. "And somewhere in the middle of all that you forgot that the people you're optimizing around are the only people in this city who are still actually people." The council was very still. "The offer is no," Clover said. "The answer was no before you made it. The answer would be no if you doubled it. What you're asking me to do is close a case in a way that protects the thing that caused the case, and I don't do that. I didn't do it before I got frozen and I'm not going to start now because you have nice architecture and a very good chair." He stood. "I'll have my full report when the investigation is complete," he said. "You'll get everything, who, why, how, and what it means. You might not like all of it. That's generally how it goes with the truth." He crossed the open floor toward the door. "Mr. Clover," Vane's voice, the tone of it new, stripped of the prepared quality, something underneath it that might have been genuine. "If you submit a report that implicates the policy that makes this investigation about the restructuring initiative, the council will not be able to act on it. Do you understand that? The system here is very old and very settled. One report from an outside investigator does not move it." Clover stopped at the door but didn't turn around. "I know," he said. "Then what do you think you're accomplishing?" He thought about Vex's walls, about centuries of thinking written on every available surface, because the thoughts needed somewhere to go even if no one was reading them. He thought about what Raven had said in the blocks, "I believe, based on 7 years of watching them." "The vote is suspended," he said, "not cancelled. As long as it's suspended, the blocks are still standing. As long as the blocks are standing, those 40,000 people have their lives." He paused. "One day at a time is how most people live. I don't see why it shouldn't work for cities too." He opened the door. "One more thing," he said to the door rather than the room. "The kill orders, the ones you issue for administrative intelligences that develop their own, what was the word, purpose." He paused. I'd hold off on any new ones for a while, just a thought. He walked out. The elevator was waiting, as always. He wrote it down in the company of his own reflection in the polished interior surface, a man who looked like he'd been doing this for decades, which he had, across a gap of centuries. Tired around the eyes, jacket slightly wrong for the climate, the scar on the left hand. The elevator opened on the lobby, and he walked through it and out into the boulevard. The administrative morning was progressing. The fine people moved in their fine ways, the towers caught the light and gave it back. Somewhere behind him in the building he'd just left, 7 old certainties were having a conversation about what to do with a detective who wouldn't close. He walked back toward his workspace and thought about what he'd just done, which was make enemies in the only city in the world, in a body that couldn't go back in a box and a case that wasn't finished yet, and a situation that was going to get worse before it resolved itself. His back hurt. The trees would be in their triangular formation. He was, he realized, entirely all right with all of it. That was new, or not new old. The oldest feeling he had, the one that had gotten him into the box in the first place, the one that apparently 300 years of unconsciousness hadn't touched. The feeling of having said the true thing to the people who needed to hear it, and walking out of the room before they could find a way to make the true thing negotiable. He'd missed that feeling. He hadn't realized how much until just now.